IAMAI and our partnering firm, Root Mobile. Internet and Mobile Association of India is a not-for-profit industry body representing the complete gamut of digital services industry in India. We have over 330 Indian and multinational corporations as members from various segments for our sector-specific committees like digital transformation, digital advertising, edtech, fintech, gaming, etc. In case you need any additional information on how to be a part of IAMAI and its initiatives, you can visit our website, which reads www.iamai.in. Moving on to the introduction of Root Mobile. Founded in 2004, Root Mobile is a publicly listed company and among the leading cloud communications platform service provider offering communication platform as a service. They cater to enterprises, over-the-top players, and mobile network operators, and the portfolio comprises solutions in messaging, voice, email, SMS filtering, analytics, and monetization. They deliver an entire communication product stack based on CPaaS principles, infusing conversational AI across a broad range of industries, including social media companies, banks and financial institutions, e-commerce entities, and travel aggregators as well. Root Mobile is headquartered in Mumbai with a global presence in the Asia Pacific, Middle East, Africa, Europe, and the Americas. For more information, you can visit their website www.rootmobile.com. I would first like to thank Root Mobile for partnering with us once again. Joining us today, we have a distinguished set of panelists. First, we have Aditi Mahali, Head of Marketing from Future Retail. Next, we have Mr. Milind Pathak, Chief Business Officer at Root Mobile Limited. Ms. Sayantini Chanda, Head CRM, Loyalty, Analytics and Customer Experience, Bata India. Mr. Umair Mohammed, Founder and CEO, Vixotech, and Mr. Vipin Rustagi, General Manager IT at Page Industries. I will now request the Root Mobile team to take this forward for a small presentation. Over to you, Mr. Milind.
Thank you very much. Let me try and share the screen, and if somebody could just confirm if my screen is visible, that will be helpful.
The screen is visible, sir.
Is it visible?
Yes, it is.
Thanks, everyone. It's a pleasure to be talking along with my August colleagues and August panel colleagues, talking on the omni-channel retail perspective, predominantly focusing on how consumers interact with the brands and enterprise in an omni-channel manner. I think company has been introduced. I wouldn't take too much of a time, but one core point that I would perhaps want to highlight here is that we eat, sleep, drink, breathe communication as one of the core enablers for a brands and enterprise to talk to its consumer, and thereby helping the enterprise and brands to ensure that they are reaching out to the customer in the most optimal time per se. If you look at the retail sector, the challenges are multiple and the opportunities are multiple. To list down the challenges, a few, you still have a large set of data which is coming as siloed. Some omni-channel guys are trying to go online, some online guys are trying to go retail. So bringing and merging those systems becomes a challenge at times. And because of the retail and an omni-channel nature of the business, automating the journey end to end becomes very, very difficult, wherein a guy who comes online and a person who comes on an offline, how do you really marry them together becomes very, very difficult for the segment and the sector. Messaging sometimes cannot be very, very consistent and personalized. By and large, companies are trying to solve the problem of how do you really link the data between online and offline. It's very, very challenging. And that's where an opportunity also lies for some of us to try and discuss and see what technology data can play a part in trying to solve this challenge. Cart abandonment has been a classical e-commerce problem. I wonder if there is a cart abandonment in the retail world, and I would love if Uman, Santhani and Aditi and Vipin all talk about how potentially cart abandonment is dealt in a real world per se. And of course, COVID has accentuated this, but consumers are expecting much work to happen on a digital channel. So we are seeing there is a huge demand for conversational commerce. We are seeing a huge demand to ensure omni-channel payments are being done. So with this kind of a line of thought challenge, right, we always have felt that there has been a need to simplify the communication. And mind you, communication is not coming with just one channel. And I'm not talking of where brands advertise. I'm talking of communication where a brand or an enterprise, take in case of somebody in the panel, say a Bata or a Shopper Stop, tries to reach out to its customer in a way which is through a channel of, say, an SMS, a voice, a Google business message, or an email or a WhatsApp. There are so many digital channels on which a consumer is present. How do I really stitch a very coherent, unified, personalized communication to ensure that my experience is world class? And some of us are kind of students of ensuring that the consumer experience is very well managed, because at the end of the day, uh, what the user remembers is his interaction or her experience with the brand. And that's how we try and focus on ensuring that how communication is able to help bring solid user experience into its interaction with the brand or the enterprise. And mind you, this transformation has been very, very challenging for all of us. We have always been multi-channel. Since the evolution of digital, it has been multi-channel. But now the challenge for us is to become very omni-channel, which means to say that even if I'm conversing on one particular channel, how do I really ensure that my backend is consistently aware of what I spoke or what I communicated in my previous communication? Uh, and that's where the channel today is, which is to say, how do I really move my consumer from a multi-channel, which is very independent nature, a multi-channel customer engagement, to a very omni-channel consumer experience or a customer experience bit, where whether it's a contact center executive, he knows about your last purchase or knows about your last visit at a store in Bandra, or your last purchase on an online product that you've ordered in Gurgaon. How does that experience really manifests into the brand talking to the consumer is where the transformation is happening, and more brands are spending time in trying to get that done. uh, to do this across to do this journey, there are, I think, two three very, very critical elements that is required, right? One element is, how do I really have a unified customer view? And once I have that unified customer view, am I then able to communicate with that consumer? I think these are the two areas which we have seen people talk about it, right? So when you look at a customer view, data is picked up from multiple sources, whether it's a brand CRM, whether it's a Google Analytics, whether it's a website, whether it's an e-commerce direct to consumer platform, or whether it's your presence on an online marketplace, or also signals which emerge from some of your advertising SEOs, right? Now, how do you really ensure that I'm bring all of this data in a way which is simplistically put, marry your GA data to a large extent with your purchase history, whether it's online and offline, right? Now, that kind of a combination becomes the secret sauce going forward. And based on that, then how do you really build personalized journey? How do you really know that the right time to reach a Janet or a Janelle would be a WhatsApp? An ideal price point on which a communication should hit her is maybe 3,000 rupees. And the best time to talk to her is maybe 2 to 4 in the afternoon, right? Now, that's the kind of personalized journey that is possible with combining of all these tools, the CRMs, the analytics, the online marketplaces data, the advertising data, or the brand's own e-commerce or a website data. When you start doing personalizations, we have seen massive improvement on the conversion rates. I can give a very simple example, right? A very simplistic on-site browser notification, which is very textual in nature. The moment we have done and converted that into a rich media communication, the same on-site notification, when it started showing pictures, we found uh, three-digit increase in the interaction that would happen by the known or an unknown user on the online channel, on the website, right? And that we have seen time and again across multiple channels of communication. So we have clearly seen that the improvement of the conversion rate across communication channels have happened when brands have made the communication richer across the channel. And that is the reason why a WhatsApp, an RCS, uh, so to say, an email, start drawing more interactions and nudges from the customer to talk to a brand. Classic example in our e-commerce journey has been How do you really solve a challenge of cart abandonment? Somebody has gone there, carted a product, not visited back. Can we ensure that he's being talked back by offering a simple communication through a WhatsApp? We have also experimented things like, can we try and do an outbound call when the customer is left a carted, convert the abandoned cart through text to speech in a voice, and put a mobile call communication to him, very simply saying that, hey, listen, seems like you have put a goggle in your abandoned cart, press 1 to get a payment link, and so on and so forth. And the early experiments on these are giving fantastic conversions for the brand, as we have seen, as upwards of 50% to 60% recovery of the so-called abandoned cart, or whatever you call it, as lost sales in that domain. Other very interesting example we have seen across is how do people really engage with the walk-ins at an outlet, and we have tried to experiment. QR code has been made very popular these days, and online payment companies and wallets have made it very, very popular. It's very commonly used. We have seen massive uptake on consumers wanting to participate in talking to a brand or an enterprise or an outlet if they put a very simplistic QR code to just register themselves through a magic link to receive richer communication. And that's been significantly a strategy used by multiple brands to ensure that their customer data becomes quite large. And last but not the least, while you do all of these conversations, what we have observed is, and I was talking to Uma a couple of days back, and we did discuss that, all of this information, when given to a brand, gets spoken at some contact center, right? Somebody calls up a contact center and says, I purchased this particular product some days back. I have a challenge. Quite a few times it has been observed that the data may not be completely available in every dashboard that is around, made available for the consumer to interact with the brand. And that's where bringing the entire set of customer conversations, be it a contact center, be it a very simple bot, be it a particular outlet or a particular e-commerce site which caters to that consumer, that becomes an extremely critical part of your consumer journey. So the consumer journey, in our view, covers almost practically every aspect, from generating a 360-degree consumer view, going to ensuring that you communicate with them in a very personalized manner, building up use cases using multiple channels, and ensuring that you bring and stitch all of this together in one unified place, which could then be used by anybody, whether it's a marketing guy, whether it's a contact center person, be it a customer support person, to ensure that all the conversations that the customer has done with you as a brand is stored in one single location, thereby really impacting the customer conversations and the experience that the consumer has with the brand. I think that's been a point that we wanted to have a chat and kind of speak to the experts in this domain and take their view and sharpen the thought going further. So thank you very much, guys, for listening to us, and I leave it to Uma to try and take this up as a further course of discussion. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Milind. I think that was a very in-depth understanding of how Root Mobile can help you. And I'm sure that all marketers would be grappling with challenges around, of course, consolidation of data, which itself is very critical, especially because I know that everybody over here on the panel also has brick and mortar and would have historical data, which is quite multivariate. So I think that's where it's very useful. I think just to open the panel and set the context, which you have of course done beautifully on the marketing context. I think we are living in a seamless world is very obvious, right? And that is really what we are trying to address here through our marketing efforts. But every retailer defines omni-channel and focus areas, for them in terms of what is that wow experience which will make a difference to their customers, right? Whether it's at the marketing end. We know that single view of customer is something that we have all been grappling with in terms of how do we actually create that and create that one-to-one, really sharp marketing effort with our customers. Or I'm sure, we have Future Group, we have a Jockey, etc., who are all going to have a distribution which is very wide. And, you have inconsistent assortment sometimes, and customers walk into your store, or, whether it is actually looking at your website where you don't find something, right? So many a times, and I know I can say that about Shopper Store, where there was a large focus which actually went into single view of inventory, creating availability and the endless aisle, and then the marketing, which is, built on top of that. Or, we spoke about how Obviously, there are brands who have assisted selling, which is a very important area as well, right? So there are different aspects to in terms of how we look at whether it's omni-channel marketing or whether it's looking at customer experience. And I think really what matters to the customers is important. So maybe we can open with that. And if the panelists can give a brief, introduction into what omni-channel is, at, their organizations, and maybe we can start with Shantani and take it from there.
Sure. Thanks, Uma. And thanks, Milind. It was a great presentation and very relevant. I mean, can't relate more. Answering this particular question, at Bata, omni-channel is defined as part, I'll tell you the omni-channel philosophy per se, and we call it internally FA2A, which means from anywhere to anywhere. It's just a very simple governing principle that you should be able to serve your customers, be it with products, be it with service. You should be able to serve your customers. Doesn't matter where they are, from anywhere to anywhere, doesn't matter whether at your stores, whether they are at home. That seamless experience across the entire consumer journey is what FA2A, or from anywhere to anywhere, is to us. And that is, and before we sort of go into any details of it, what we had done as an organization is to look at the entire consumer journey, the pre-sales as well as the post-sales part of it. Yeah, we have our basics there. So for example, we have a Bata home delivery service. So if you walk into a store and you don't get your size and color or design, for example, you can, place a home delivery order. There's a backend algo, an order management system in the backend, which links that inventory to our huge network of stores, and kind of the order gets home delivered from there. What we have also done is actually take our own website or bata.in per se, or our own e-shop, and also linked them with the store inventory. So when you're actually trying to order at a bata.in, you're actually looking at the inventory of my 1200 plus stores. So, and then the third very important part for us was also to build a seamless consumer experience as far as the post-sales aspect is also concerned, with the governing philosophy of from anywhere to anywhere. So, that's, in a nutshell, what we kind of, governs us per se in whatever we do in the omnichannel piece.
That's lovely, from anywhere. And I'm sure you guys have a huge rallying cry around that for your operations team as well. It's very, very interesting. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I hope you have not trademarked it. If you have not trademarked it, I would use it for sure.
Yeah.
It's actually, it's an FA2A, we call it internally, and it's sort of, that's our term.
Great. Aditi, I'm sure, you guys, especially with the number of categories that Future Group actually retails, it would be very interesting to see how you have addressed the omni-channel challenge at Future Group, in fact.
Thanks, Uma. Thanks, Milind. I think Shantani set it up quite well. And like she mentioned, they have a FA2A. For Big Bazaar, what we have is a store-to-door. So we launched our e-commerce initiative last year. And as the large retail grocery players go, I think we were the last two market, right? And it was not an easy task given the kind of spread and the, like you mentioned, the range and categories that we have. How do you really bring it alive and come in with a relevant proposition? So for us, the real differentiator that we built and on which rests our whole omni-channel philosophy, if I may put it, is store-to-door, which means if you cannot come to the store, which is where the traditional model has been, people have always been going to the Big Bazaar store once a month or, twice a month or so, the store will come to you. Now, the store comes to you in multiple ways. One, the easiest way is, of course, the e-commerce site that we launched. Then we also have a WhatsApp service. Every store has WhatsApp numbers, which collect WhatsApp orders. We also do assisted fashion shopping using video calls, etc. Right? We walk you through inventory. We will show you the general merchandise if there is a particular, because we have a huge base of loyal customers who know exactly what is available, the kind of, say, the dabba that they want, or the chopper that they want, or, the kind of clothes that they want. So that, again, the video shopping is a big part of our omni-channel story, assisted shopping. And apart from that, we have missed call. So you can also give us a missed call and the store will call you back. because we cater to such a large and diverse audience. So just keeping to e-commerce was, e-commerce for us is a start point. The website is a start point. We have to enable the customer to reach us in the manner that they are most comfortable. If you are comfortable making a phone call and reaching to me, I'll take a phone order, right? If you are more comfortable with WhatsApping me a list of things that you want, we'll deliver a WhatsApp order. Right? The store will cater to our customer base in whichever way suits the customer. I think we, in the last year, we really modeled ourselves on this, which was a sea change coming from both the organizational and a mindset perspective, because for the last 20 years, we've never had home delivery, right? And the biggest advantage that we have is when we set up this model, everybody is mapped to their closest e-commerce store. And given the fact that we live in an instant generation, meaning, gratification is instant. I want to watch a serial, I will hunt up on some OTT platform and I will watch it. I want to watch a movie, I don't need to wait in a booking line, right? The moment I want it, I need to have it. We're talking to that kind of a generation. So even in retail, the kind of model that we have, which links back to your local store, allows us to do a 2-hour delivery model. So anything, whether it is grocery or whether it is electronics or fashion, like in the morning, you remember that, oh, I have an interview today, but guess what? I don't have any shirts or a kurta to wear for it. You can quickly order, and within 2 hours, you'll get a shirt or a kurta delivered to you, right? I mean, anything that is there in the store can be delivered to you in 2 hours. I think for us, that has been the hugest differentiator, given the network that we have and the kind of model that we built. So it's not really a physical store or e-commerce store or a WhatsApp store. It is Big Bazaar everywhere, whichever way you want to reach it.
Right. I think coming to you, Vipin, I think Jockey is very different in the sense that obviously you have your own stores, but then you are retailing through so many different networks, right? So your marketplace strategy is huge. You are, there in modern trade, you will be there in traditional trade, you're there in large format stores. I think there's so much disparate data and distribution in the case of Jockey, and also multinational brand. Consumer expectations also would be very, very high from a brand like that. How have you treated your omni-channel strategy given that?
You pointed it out really right. So Jockey is in a very unique position in terms of planning its omni-channel strategy, because as you rightly mentioned, Jockey is a very heavy player in distribution, means 75% of its business is in distributions. Then Jockey has its own exclusive brand outlets, which are 1,000 in numbers, which is quite a big number. I think a decent amount of business comes in mid like 500, around the range of 500 crores. And then e-commerce is also a big business, and the large format store also. So the first and foremost, because there is so much complexity, first and foremost, what we want, what we are planning as a strategy in Jockey is that we need to give a uniform consumer experience across everywhere. And whether it is in terms of the product messaging that has to reach the consumers, or the pricing that has to reach the consumer, loyalty programs that has to reach. So all this consistency has to be broad. But since it's very diverse, complex, and a lot of different partners are involved, so we are approaching it step by step. The first and foremost, if I speak in terms of retail specifically, so Jockey as a strategy right now, the major part of Jockey is not only about Jockey retail stores is not only about generating revenue and creating sales, right? The key strategy that management has in mind is Jockey retail, this business exclusive brand outlets to be treated as a experience centers, right? So this post this COVID, there is and I think a dilemma which is going on in retail industry, because all these physical stores, there is a kind of a downside in terms of consumer reaching the retail stores, and the e-commerce and the digital sales have taken, like in case of Jockey, it has reached 10 times of the original volumes which were there before COVID. So in that case specifically, what we want to plan as a strategy for our retail stores is that when the consumer reaches the retail stores, we give him a good brand experience. Those people who are coming to our stores are acting as a messenger for Jockey, and we should give them such a world-class experience, show the entire range, like show the right product messaging and all that. And so the many initiatives we are planning there. One is that we, in our POS, we are integrating it with the backend loyalties program, so that whatever loyalty points the consumer earns by purchasing at a retail stores can be used across e-commerce or any other place as a voucher. I mean, even if he goes to a normal uh, uh, store in the market, which is normal distribution retailer, so that place also he can use those vouchers. So that is what we are, first we are trying to bring a consistency. Secondly, also we are trying to make them as a storage point for us for deliveries, wherein uh, just as Aditi mentioned and Sayantani mentioned, like all these stores will be acting as a inventory point for us, wherein if there is any order comes, so we should be able to deliver by using these stores as an inventory points, so that the inventory is available for all to use. And like as you rightly mentioned, it's a very complex assortment. We are into so many categories. We have used AIML tools in the backend to plan the assortment and planograms first. Second, all these inventories, there is a balancing that happens between the retail stores and the distributors. So those all initiatives we are taking, so that slow moving inventory from one store might, it might be a high fast moving inventory in another area. So we should be able to balance that also. Uh, but first and foremost, as you rightly mentioned, it is about how less complex we make it for the end customer. So these days there is a general phenomenon in the retail industry, wherein if a consumer is going into a retail store for any brand, first thing he does is, there is a very complex process of buying thing. What he will do is he will search on Google what other channels are actually, what other channels are providing at what price and all that. So that makes life very difficult for a consumer. So once we bring that trust, authenticity, and comfort to the customer, so that is the area, because Jockey as a brand, we don't give any discount across any channels. So if we everything is sold on MRP, whether it is retail, whether it is distribution, whether it is B2B e-commerce, and we take it very seriously if somebody is posting it on a discount and some partner is trying to sell it at a discount, because we don't have a concept of discount. Now, if that discounting is provided, we take it very seriously and we try to remove that channel partner, whether it is across us, because we want to maintain the brand premiumness, as well as we want to uh, kind of alleviate the customer of all this complexity. So one thing we want to share there is that we share a comfort, and when it comes to a retail store, he will have access to kiosks where he will, whether the product is not available or available, he can go on the kiosk and then see actually if he wants any other thing, he can place an online, it will reach to his home through online delivery. As well as we are also planning to set up footfall trackers, wherein once a customer comes, once we know about the customer, we actually see the pattern of what all products he has seen and all that, because it is not only about sales that matters. These days, a lot of data we collect around sales and we build our strategies around that. But there is a journey to customer going to buy a product. Basically, there is a latent demand. First of all, that customer does not have a realization that the demand is there, I need this product or not. When the marketing interventions happen from the brands, then there is a realization, yes, this is a thing that I need. So that is a latent demand activation to become a need or a want. And then the last step is giving him a channel. How easy is it for him to buy that product? Because there is a moment of truth. At that moment, as it is a demand, it is a generation of instant gratification. So at that moment, if he is having a very convenient channel to access, then he will make that sale. So we want to capture those latent demand also. Means we have a thought, we have not kind of invested in any technologies, but we want to understand that there is a lot of demand which is getting unfulfilled from Jockey's end because of all these inconveniences at the customer end. But we have a thought there also in terms of marketing as well as other tech interventions that we want to do. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for that, Vipin. I think Milind and Omer, I mean, this is more for you, right? So when I'm here, of course, our panelists, and if you see the challenge in retail, you do find that, you know, the supply side problems are actually foremost, right? Because you have the store experience, you have operations, and then obviously availability, etc., pose a lot of challenges. Distribution, like you heard, Vipin, poses a lot of challenge, and the technology investments first go towards that, right? So your first thing is you're getting a point of sale correct, and that's a huge investment. Your enterprise technology, all of that goes into place. And your presentation, and you guys spoke, of course, of CDP being at the center of everything. I'm not sure how many panelists have actually looked at that, but I think retail is definitely at this moment in time where they're poised to actually build on top of that, because one, they have a lot of data, which is first-hand data, and it is actually also profile data, it is the external data, it is the transaction data, which they are in a position to leverage on a first-party data. And we all know that there's a lot of debate around there is going to be a cookieless world in the future, right? And how is it that you feel that you worked across so many categories, Umair, maybe starting with you, where this can actually be leveraged by retailers to get whether it's acquisition and retention strategies sharper. And next, maybe it's more around the technology, right? Because in retail there is always focus on conversion technologies, which is actually foremost, because that you're used to having a brick and mortar channel where there's already footfall which is coming in, and all retailers will try to actually maximize that first. But what you have presented today and what we're talking about is how do you grow your business, right, on the back of omni-channel marketing, right? And how do you actually leverage, and what kind of technology will help, and what kind of multi-channel marketing can be used, by retailers to actually expand, their repertoire of what they're already doing in omni-channel.
Sure.
So, Umair, maybe we can start with you.
Sure. Thanks, Uma. And I think as a virtue of being a platform that works with approximately 300 plus retail e-commerce companies across the globe, including some likes Libas, we have W4Women, we have the likes of Bajaj Electrical. One of the challenges that we have seen when we go to these e-tailers like we call them now, because they have an e-commerce arm and they have a retail arm. Omnichannel means different thing to different people, right? So, but the core of it, and we look at it in the form of a pyramid, right? The core of it is the base. And what the base for us is collection, assortment, and assimilation of data, right? You rightly pointed out, because some of it is coming from legacy systems, maybe CRM, POS. It could be like a age-old CRM, that the retailer is using, and could be a new age e-commerce website built on a technology like Shopify, BigCommerce, or WooCommerce, right? So how do we ensure that a single integrated system is talking to actually two different systems at the same plan? On one side, there is a legacy system which might or might not have available APIs. And on the other hand is the new age system, which is a new website. How do we ensure that all of this data is collected, assimilated, assorted together, right? So homogenization of data is what we have done for a lot of retailers, right? In terms of, so we look at it as breaking the data silos between, retail and e-commerce should not be, and is not considered as two separate arms. Earlier, I remember around 5-6 years back, e-commerce used to be a separate team in retail organizations, a very small team, 3-4 people running it. I've personally seen the transition at TCNS Clothing, W4Women, where before they went public, there were a team of about 4-5 people running the e-commerce show, and there is a separate team for retail. So we looked at it and we said, okay, look, customer is one entity, product SKU is one entity, right? And orders placed as one entity. Let's just bring all of this data together across different vertical. It would be POS, it could be company-owned stores, it could be an e-commerce, and bring all of those transactional data together. Now, we'll also bring in activity data on customers later on, wherever we can capture it. Could be an app. Nowadays, as soon as the retailer has launched a website, they also want to convert it into an app, and there are easy technologies to do that available, and to build loyalty, it's important that you have hold of that customer, right? So the first base of the pyramid for us was always collection, assortment, assimilation of that data. Bring all of those data together from e-commerce, from retail, from POS. The second, on top of that pyramid, base of the pyramid, we built other technologies like business intelligence, recency, frequency, monetary segmentations, easy segmentation, and everything is built on top of that layer of data for us. So that is why we've continued this journey of last 6 years, and we work with some really great names in the industry. part of the reason is that we've kept on building on that pyramid. Today we are at a point that we're very proud to say that we've been part of the journey where we have directly contributed to revenue increase, and it has only happened because we started off with data, customer, order, product, and SKU level data. Built on top of that, built on top customer profiles, built on top, added the behavioral data, activity data to that, entire data set, and allowed marketer to easily build segmentation. And then we used communication channels, but they were highly personalized down to their activity level, which led to higher conversion rate. I keep on giving this example, but our campaigns typically on an e-commerce convert at about 10% conversion rate, right? Simply because we are sitting on tons of data and we're utilizing it in the best way possible, the right content at the right place, on the right channel at the right time, right? So I think that's what customers want. We have this term whenever our sales team is pitching to like a large retailer is that, do you want to personalize like Amazon, right? And then I think that's the aspiration, that every retailer individually wants a 14% conversion rate on their website and wants everything to be present inside a single data warehouse where they can utilize it in different ways. And for us, omnichannel has been that journey towards personalize. Each individual customer is a segment, right? We call it a segment of one. So the journey towards that is what we feel that at least personally as Wixo, we've helped retailers battle it out over the last 6 years.
Uma, after Umair has spoken, it's very difficult to miss or to add what he said, but let me try and attempt that, to add more elements which he has potentially missed. So I think he's right. As a company which focuses perhaps on CDP or a bit of an automation, I think he's touched all the right chords, right? But I'll try and bring the attention core to what we are all trying to solve here, right? Let me try and answer that question and then build on it in a couple of minutes. So I think fundamentally all of us in this panel and whosoever is attending this is what he's trying to solve is, how do I ensure that my consumer experience with the brand is world-class and kick-ass, right? I think that's a core, right? I may put all the kinds of technology in place, but if my consumer experience is not really that healthy, then I'm really not solving a problem, right? So when we went on the drawing board within Root saying, listen, what all comes into the whole stack of ensuring that the consumer experience comes well? So it became an amalgamation of two core lines of thought. One line of thought was omnichannel communication. And mind you, it sounds simple, but believe you me, if you're a practitioner, you know that it is so difficult to get it right. Should I communicate to him in WhatsApp? Okay, if WhatsApp is not there, can I send SMS? If SMS is not working, do I have to do a fallback on a voice? If voice is not working, do I have to do a fallback on email? It's so complex. It may seem that it is easy, but each of that channel is very, very complicated, right? So we said for a world-class consumer experience, what is very critical is get the house in order for omnichannel communication. And omnichannel doesn't mean independent. Omnichannel means where one handshake closes, the other handshake starts. So it's almost like a seamless. That's one large element. And the second element is what we call as personalization tech, which broadly comprises of 4 or 5 elements. Data platforms comes into it. Automation flow comes into it. Recommendation engine comes into it. Umair did not touch about A/B testing. The amount of A/B testing that we have done when we run, if we do transaction business, somebody has swiped a credit card, you're getting a message that your balance is deducted or your transaction is approved or whatever. It's a very straightforward message. But if I am using my platform for communication, for a marketing campaign, the amount of A/B testing that we do across is just unbelievable, right? Now, these two things, personalization tech and omnichannel, eventually our belief is build something what we call as customer experience platform. And that's what it is, right? And in our experience, it's practically impossible for anybody to build it on its own. For example, why do I want to reinvent the wheel of a recommendation engine when Amazon provides this API? And if I have to take an example of Shanthini, I'm just taking it for the heck of it. You and I don't work in it. It's a public disclaimer. Root and Bata doesn't work together on this. But to just cite an example, she would love it if her website is powered by Amazon recommendation engine. Let her data run on the Amazon data for 2 months. Amazon does not even put the name powered by Amazon. It just provides an API, and her entire consumer experience would be that of an Amazon recommendation, which is so famous on that e-commerce, right? So our job has been to try and bring all these complex and intermittent technologies together and ensure that we work with the brands and marketers to build marketing, to build a kick-ass experience. And most of us are paid marketeers, right? So that's the last leg that we try to solve. That now that I have all this data, now that I have communicated, now I have know the signals of the communication also. Can I do one-click export of all this data into a Google or a Facebook or a programmatic stack so that the brand can then find a lookalike there, right? That's been a journey, and it never stops. It's evolving. I go to Indonesia as a company. First thing that miss, WhatsApp, Viber, everything is fine. Do you have Zalo in it? And then I struggle saying, oh no, I don't have Zalo. It takes me 2 weeks, 3 weeks to integrate. And then I go to Korea. They say, oh, everything is fine. Do you have Kakao Talk? I said, takes 2 weeks to integrate. So it's a communication sounds simple, but it's a complicated kind of a process, right? So I think combined, hopefully, we both have tried to answer it in a manner.
Yeah.
I'm sure at a later point you could try and touch on the content element, which is another very critical element of this job.
I think that's a good question for Aditi, probably, because they're one of the biggest spenders on digital marketing and have been the forerunners in terms of adopting digital as well as, using multiple channels in terms of communication. And Aditi, what Milind has just touched upon is the complexity of channels. And I'm sure you guys are using many channels. And do you have any tips for listeners in terms of how do you actually apply seamlessness across channels? And I know you guys are one of the largest producers of content as well in the retail environment. Maybe you can talk about how you are addressing that channel, you being on the marketing side, who would be looking at that. And there would be, of course, an e-commerce team on the other side who's looking at actually very, micro-segmented communication. How do you actually bring this together for Future Group, for Big Bazaar, Fashion at Big Bazaar, and how does that work?
Thanks, Uma. Thanks, Milind. I think, Uma, good question. And like you said, it is a challenge. In fact, I was reading a report recently which said, when we all started our journeys as marketeers, it was said that, you need, a customer needs around 3 touch points for a person to convert, 3 to 4 touch points, right? That's why you had print, OOH, activation, TV, those are the kind of touch points that you spoke about, or DM back in those days, right? Which slowly became around 5. Right now, a person needs around 8 touch points to convert to your brand message, right? And how do you get those 8 touch points? The task of converting has become so much more difficult just because of there is such a information explosion in everybody's life. That is one aspect of it. The second is like, I think Vipin was mentioning earlier, everybody's in a comparative world, right? There is no immediate decision. It's like, okay, let me check, agar ye itne mein yahan mil raha hai, to is there somewhere else that I'm getting a better deal? And once I do the comparative, then I will go back. So you need to really keep talking to the customer to be able to get them converted to your brand. And that's where some of the points that we've spoken about come into play. For us, print, TV are our base mediums, and they will always continue to be so in terms of the kind of reach and awareness that they give us. Digital for us works at 2 levels. One is it's very personalized. I can reach out to my audience and talk to lookalikes and talk to that universe of engaged people. And then I have my whole social media channel. For me, social media is a place where we have two-way dialogue, right? We really treat our social media platforms as a content conversation that I have with my audience, right? Giving them a reason. So there's a lot of time as a retailer, I'm giving a lot of price information saying I have this sale happening or I have X product at Y price, right? And that's a pure transactional conversation that happens with the customer. But customers today want a level above that. And we drive that using our content conversations where if you really look at our Insta pages, we have a Big Bazaar handle, we have a Big Bazaar beauty handle, given that beauty again is big business today, and we have lots of brands that are just built on one vertical, right? And food, which of course is one of the primary stays of our business, both in the house where I look at grocery as one of the main contributors of my business, as well as consumption in retail, right? So food becomes a second handle, and we create a lot of buckets in terms of, what's new in store, what are the relevant food conversations that we can have in terms of giving beauty tips, etc. That will help the customer on a daily life, right? And also then leading back to commerce, saying, these products are available. So how do you link that? Because unless you create your relevancy in the customer's life, the customer is going to shut you out after a point of time. They don't really want the information. They go out and seek information themselves, right? So for us, it works in that manner. So we use this. Then, of course, there is SMS notifications, etc. So when we look at building our messaging stack, it really comes from, okay, what is the objective of a campaign? What is my audience size for the campaign, right? I have a own base through my notifications through the Future Pay app, which is our loyalty program that we run, in which you get cash rewards, etc. So we have a large loyal base over there through my Shop Big Bazaar app. Right, so those become my primary methods. On that, then comes digital. Over and above that, then comes print and then TV. So we really build the stack that way, looking at what is the audience size that I'm reaching out to. Then there will be SMS. There is store WhatsApp groups, etc. Also that get activated, because we operate at both levels. We operate at a HO level in terms of communication, and there is always the store level. Because for me, as a brand, it is not unlike if I were to say a Bata or a Jockey. It is not a national brand, right? My brand strength is as good as the store next to you, right? So I can't even say ki I am a Bombay brand, I am a Matunga brand, or I am a Banaswadi brand, I am a Koramangala brand, right? Because it is that catchment that actually drives my program, and therefore we have a really strong core this thing with the stores that drives a lot of conversation with the catchment. So we work at multiple levels to have these conversations. But what we do is there is a single message that gets streamlined throughout the channel, so that there are no conflicting conversations that are happening at a time. So it's quite orchestrated in that matter.
Yeah, I think I'm conscious of the time, so I'm going to keep two questions, one for Shantini and one for Vipin, and then give time for the audience as well. Shantini, it's I think you would have obviously things which are very different from what Aditi had just said, but you do have, I'm sure, family consumers, because you have school shoes, you have women's shoes, you'll have senior citizens who also turn to Bata. So your brand challenge would be, of course, very different. And there's some interesting things you've done using your loyalty data as well as digital to be able to actually create your customer outreach and engagement. Maybe you can throw some light on that in terms of how you've done that.
Absolutely. Yeah. So Uma, you're like absolutely bang on. And I'll just take cues from various things which Milind and Aditi say during the conversation. So while tech is extremely important and couldn't agree or relate more to each of the aspects which was defined, it's very important that, there is the right confluence of technology, data, as well as the people and process part of it. Till the time the technological advancements in a typical retail industry like us and the workforce engagement also needs to go hand in hand in a lot of cases. So I'll just give an example. So, post-COVID, when it hit us, I mean, we were all kind of the first wave I'm talking about. Nobody was sure how the future of retail will shape up or what will be the new consumer buying behavior. I think everybody had reached out to their old, kind of loyal base, trying to understand the different behaviors which might be expected to come out. And there was a lot of people who were telling that they're not willing to come down to stores right now. They would like to maybe have a, kind of a contactless experience or more of a digital experience, etc. So something similar which we did, and we sort of found out, typical 3 big segments of users in our TG. One set, typical, we deemed it the digital natives, typically 25 to 35-year-old, familiar with online channels. And for them, our single-minded strategy was to scale our online presence, bring in a lot of automations, recommendation engines, which Milind and Amit spoke about. How do we kind of do that? How do we, sort of improve or make store also a channel to gather a lot of this data? So we had the profile enrichment drives, which we ran at our stores to actually improve. improve our customer database accordingly and marry it back so that I can then retarget him online if required. Then this came out to digital adopters, typically 40 to 50-year-olds being my database, and someone who needs a sort of an hand-holding, and someone who might not be very comfortable kind of shopping from a bata.in or a web or a Myntra on Amazon. So they might be comfortable with popular online apps like a WhatsApp and stuff, and for them it was important that we scaled up quickly we call it Bata Chat Shop or an assisted shopping, which means that you can basically talk with your nearest store manager over a WhatsApp chat or a video call and sort of get the product home delivered within a couple of hours. So here also data became very important, because I will take you again from Aditi, the catchment which we were building. So when we got a tool, gave it to at a store manager level, uploaded it with the right kind of segments who are most likely to convert to this assisted shop of modding at a store level. And then this was a complete new channel. It was sort of a store manager outreach, which we were doing. I mean, while the consumer can also reach out to us, we were actually making our store managers be our ambassadors and do sort of a clienteling concept with, so using technology to drive concepts like clienteling also emerged as one of the, great learning thing and a thing which has evolved particularly in Bata.
Sure.
And lastly, just one more segment, we call it the digital novices, typically 50-plus-year-olds, maybe our parents, and they also shop at Bata. That's a matter of fact, right? And they will not be, and they would always want this touch and feel and experience and stuff. For them, the business model which we made was we call it store on wheels, which are sort of mobile kiosks, which we set up inside society. But what was important is that we had ways of contactless payment there. We had e-catalogs, which can be shown to all the users so that we can do a more of contactless experience and kind of get the product bought in a contactless way per se. So it's about merging all these things to actually build the entire ecosystem, keeping all the users in mind is what our sort of journey had been.
Thanks, Shantanu. Vipin, $1 million question for you. I'm sure that all marketers, we would have had so much issue in retail, especially around churn. So large customer bases churn for us every year, right? And whereas we are looking at, I'm sure all of us would have turned and said, if we had Jockey, our churn would not be like that, because no one's going to really change their underwear brand as, often. But it would be interesting to know, how that has actually worked out for you in terms of looking at both, how you have actually managed retention. I'm sure it is not as straightforward as, one would imagine from our point of view, sitting on the outside where we look like you're sitting in a very lucky seat, right? And also in terms of acquisition, I'm sure it's not an easy category, for acquisition in terms of also digital marketing and especially online, because we're talking of omnichannel marketing ROI. Maybe you can talk about how you have actually managed these two aspects.
Sure. We'll talk about this, but I think it is a lot more than the omni-channel strategy. So I will touch upon, actually, it's a very pertinent question. As Umair mentioned, that there is a brand and then there are customers. So why don't we keep things simple between this entire channel? So what Jockey has focused on are the basic fundamentals, not as a because when we look at a business has simple fundamentals, like how do we not confuse our customers? How do we pass the right brand messaging, right? So towards that, I will just tell about some of the initiatives that Jockey had taken, which has actually made those place in the mind of the customer. So first of all, Jockey takes quality very, very seriously. It is ingrained, like everybody is a customer champion in Jockey. All the functions have drive quality as a very key driver, which is very, very important, because Jockey is one of the bigger USP. It's a mid-premium brand with a very high quality comparable to very, very expensive brands, right? So that quality as a focus is there across departments, even if it is an IT person, even if it is marketing person, sales person, or a supply chain person or a factory person. So quality is first and foremost taken care, and it is driven as a concept of customer centricity, which everybody would have to adhere to, and there is a scoring that happens at a leadership level. So those are discussions always happen. So one is that concept as a company, to keep it simple, has actually made the place in the mind of the customer that every piece is checked. You will find very, very rarely any faulty piece going in the market. If a faulty piece has to go, we sell it as a B class sales. And in terms of digital intervention, if you see, so first and foremost, there are simple steps that we have taken. First step we have taken is our brand content is going across different channels. For the distribution, it is going in a PDF where a salesman is going into market. He has an app in which there is a brand and its prices and all that. Right, in that there is a content that is going. E-commerce side, there is a content that is going. Then retail stores in the shopper POS, there are contents that are going. So that entire content is unified in the backend through a product management software. And this entire content is uniformly shared across, and there are trainings, reinforcement trainings and other trainings which happens on a regular basis. Then we have also started working on creating a one view CRM of every customer, which is like for the brand and the customer. There has to be a one view of whether whatever channel he is accessing. We are trying to build the data which we will use in future. But that is what our foresight is, that in terms of where we need to build that repository over a period of time. We have set up a new BI analytics capability within Jockey. So we'll try to derive a lot of insights from that good data. Luckily for Jockey, there is one very less complex thing which is there, is that we don't offer discounts across any channels. So what it saves us from is that we might not have to run so many complex initiatives where there are undercuttings happening, different channels are selling at different prices, customer is always in a fix and all that. So that brand messaging has reached out very well. And one around that, rather than giving discounts, what we are working on right now is to provide them consumer loyalty points. Just like Aditi was mentioning, that for future there is a future pay, which I have also experienced myself. It's a very nice program. Similarly, we are planning to give Jockey consumer loyalty points, which they can use across any store, any e-commerce site or retail stores. But we are planning in a way that we'll deploy some external agency for those redemptions. And then, but we'll have to manage it in a way that consumer, the content, the brand, anything, any experience, the way the messaging is going, the packaging is reaching, everything is consistent across channels. So that is our end objective. We have a very small ecosystem. So I was working in Marico there. I used to have 12 lakh outlets. Now in Jockey, it is only 60,000 outlets, because they are a very high volume outlets in terms of outerwear. We have a good presence there. So we might be able to affect all this. So that is an objective that we want to have. So that is how we are planning with simple fundamentals. Technology interventions are there. Future roadmap is also there. The attrition we are trying to address, and we are planning to make a place in the mind of the customer where he sees us as a premium brand. As you rightly mentioned, also the Jockey being an international brand, we being the licensee in South Asia and Southeast Asia and other geographies. So we need to communicate the same experience to the customer when he goes to a store or even goes to an e-commerce site, where we need to give him a very unique experience in terms of how he navigates. All the recommendations comes, we keep his historical data with us, and then recommend a certain products, his choices and other things. So we are working towards that. So that is how we are planning.
Great. Thanks for that. I'm just going to move to the Q&A because we are almost out of time now. I think, Milind, maybe you can take this and you can weave in another question. So there's a question which says, how do you use predictive analysis and decision making when it comes to personalized automated journey? In a parallel, there's a question around saying, if you collect only mobile numbers, and that's been as a reference, let's say to Bata, but it applies almost to any retailer, then what other data and how would you build on top of that, which is quite linked to, of course, using predictive analytics and building automated journeys. So Milind, maybe possibly you could take that question. And there's a broader question: how far or near is retail for omni-channel migration? So there we have these two questions that we need to take. So
I'll try and take these two questions quickly.
Sure.
If Kumail, you want to add some more, you could add it on that. So on coming specifically on the predictive analytics, right? So I think it's a problem of plenty that we have once we start integrating on multiple touch points on the data side, right? Whether it's a POS CRM, whether it is an online CRM, or whether it's a product like a Shopify or a big commerce or a WooCommerce. There is a problem of plenty. We have enough and more cuts and slices and dices of the data. First thing that we do is we try and ensure that it is well segmented, well thought through. And we start building in insights on that based on actually playing with algorithms, trying to predict in terms of how really a particular age group, a particular SKU group is responding to a particular channel. we then also ensure that along the online journey, so obviously offline journeys has fewer touch points, online journeys has much deeper touch points. We can put GA data very seamlessly into the consumer footprints of a logged in state or an anonymous state, and ensure that we marry it across. So typically all the purchase data, all the segment data on the purchases, and then all the footprints that the consumer has left on the digital are clubbed together. They are analyzed, and you do modeling around it to ensure that you're able to predict that typically a guy who's able to browse, view, or is responding towards email, or is responding towards a Facebook ad is the right kind of a customer segment, and we double down on that. Of course, this process is not isolated, it's iterative. Every time you run it, you learn something new, and you plug that back into the system to ensure that you're able to add it to it again. So that's one that we do for the analytics bit. The second question that you wanted me to touch was which one, Uma?
How far is retail from omni-channel? More like a industry question. How far is retail from omni-channel?
If you ask me, in the last almost, I would say April onwards, when the first COVID hit us, say from 2009. So in the last 1.5 years, I think we have progressed very, very dramatically. And my sense is that it would take another 2 to 3 years before even your significant amount of your offline data will start getting very unified. And once the offline data is unified, online data is already unified if you're using either own tools or third-party tools. The only area which remains very open, which I have no answers on, and I can't predict it at this point in time, is the online aggregator marketplaces data, right? So as of brand, I don't know if Bata is ever able to get a data from any online aggregator. I don't want to name them, but I'm sure everybody knows where they sell and retail. That's a tricky one. Except that I think offline and online, my tab would be about 3 years when I see massive integration of data touchpoints and these two journeys. And eventually, I believe the aggregator places will also come in play. Or what will happen is that brands will say, listen, I will go on my own.
Yeah, great. I think with that, we are just about 2 or 3 minutes over time, but thank you, everybody. I think a lot of insights and inputs from each and every one of the panelists. So thank you for making the time and putting a lot of content into the panel conversation. And I especially thanks a flawless organization as always, with no glitches. So thanks everybody, and thanks to the audience for being very patient listeners as well. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Uma.
Thank you
Thanks.
very much.
Yeah.
And,
Thank you.
Thank
well,
you.
the discussion was very insightful and full of learnings and key takeaways. And I hope everyone who has attended this has certain things to take along with him or her. And before we conclude, I request everyone to keep your cameras on, please, for the screenshot. And 3, 2, and thank you so much. I would now like to conclude by thanking all of you and the delegates as well for participating in this discussion. We appreciate your presence, Mr. Reja, for moderating this session so well, and the Root Mobile team as well for partnering with us. Thanks once again for joining us, and please stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Right.